Howdy, Chattanooga Film Festival. Welcome to the Q&A for Greg Swinson and Ryan Thiessen's Night Shift. We're joined by the filmmakers, writers, directors, DPs, stunt choreographers, location managers, all-around good guys, and the star, Natalie Terrazino. Congratulations. You're all Tennessee natives, correct? I'm just making an assumption about you, Natalie.
Yeah, no, I actually, funny enough, if you can tell from the more gory scenes in the movie, I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
So that's actually, a big thing about me is that I moved to Tennessee straight from Jersey.
Okay, so you brought the violence, and the guys just
that's right.
tried to work it in.
Absolutely, they knew I knew I had it.
Yeah, excellent. Well,
yes,
before we
Greg and I, yes, we are Tennessee, born and raised in Morristown, and now we're kind of out of Knoxville area. But yep.
Well, before we get into Night Shift, I think one of the things I admire most about the film and admire the most about you guys is how you have managed to sort of make these movies with the resources you have on hand in Tennessee. So before we get into the new movie, I just wanted to start with how we met and talk about your previous film just for a second, and then you can sort of fill us in on the process from 2006 when you made Five Across the Eyes to making Night Shift, because I think that story and that approach is like really important for aspiring filmmakers and just fans of indie genre in general to hear. So in case people don't know, Greg and Ryan made a movie back in 2006 called Five Across the Eyes, which the premise was five girls on the heading home from a football game, cut the wrong woman off, and she terrorizes them in their minivan over the next, I think, 86 minutes, or 91 minutes, or 120 minutes, depending on which cut.
It started at 120, and you told us to cut that shit down to 90.
Okay, so
we got close.
Got cut down, but basically, you guys had made this movie with a very clear set of rules, which was the camera was never going to leave the minivan, and you got a bunch of first-time performers together, and you shot this movie for $4,000, and based purely on sort of the energy and your imagination and everybody's sort of putting their heart and soul into it. This movie turned out good and started playing all these film festivals around the world, like Fantastic Fest, and got released around the world. And
skipped a small step in there, and that's that we sent it to this little company called Imagination Worldwide, which was a sales agency where a young Travis Stevens worked, and he was really the champion behind that, getting that movie to market and exposed to all these festivals and stuff. So there was a step in there that's very important.
Okay, well, true. But the fact is, here you are, you've made this movie for $4,000, you're playing these festivals around the world, and people are like, holy shit, what's next? And tell me what happened in between whatever it was, 2007, and when you decided to make Night Shift. Like, what was that process like when Hollywood starts coming calling, and your decision to make this one?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is we didn't have another project sort of ready to go, so to speak, like a project to pitch when people say, what are you doing next? It was like, oh, well, we got some ideas. Well, that's a hard sell. So basically, we just spent the next 10 to 12 years or so sort of struggling to get another project off the ground. I mean, we met with people, but of course, and actually we completed some projects and actually completed some scripts, we'll say, and then got some people to read them. But just kind of everything was a little too tough. And by tough, it just means sort of content in there that they're like, no, you can't do that. You got to cut that out. So, and part of that, I think, is like, we didn't have, Fire Across the Eyes had been so long ago at this point, and it was a super low budget movie. So, the production quality was pretty rough. And so it's hard to use that as sort of a selling like, oh, but look what we can do. It's like, well, but that was ages ago. What can you do now? So, and if you don't have any kind of a project that sort of a calling card project, it's hard to sell tough material. So essentially, I mean, basically had a handful of failed projects, but we just kept trying. And eventually we decided that we just got to make something else on our own again. And so they sort of, it's that sort of an adage in low budget filmmaking that look around at what you have and use what you have available. And we just happen to have access to this factory available to us. So Greg literally just wrote a script that all takes place in that exact factory. So
and how do you guys approach? Because I think one thing that's clear from both Night Shift and Five Across the Eyes is even though the productions might be restricted a bit in budget, you're using your imagination to keep things happening in the movie so that it doesn't feel small. So it feels like the story's moving forward. And how do you guys approach that sort of like writing the scripts with these locations in mind or with these constraints in mind? And is it all because Greg is diabolical, or do you guys share the responsibilities for coming up with some of these gags?
Yeah, I think it's just I'm diabolical. Usually we had one that was set all inside a minivan, and then we had this one. We had a little bit more room with a factory, but I think that's part of the creative process. Is okay, what can we do here? And it kind of fuels that I can't just do whatever I want. I have to think about this. But I think one of the big things is we always give our heroes mini goals. So they go from, okay, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to go out this door. Okay, well, that doesn't work. Well, now I'm going to try to do this to get out this door. Now, and then you always have the villain kind of coming in and getting in the way, but not in a way that where the hero sort of makes it easy for the villain, I guess. Both of them think they're the star of the movie. And so the villains, they have a plan that they think it's going to work. And your hero is also have a plan that they think is going to work. And you have to kind of just constantly come up with ways that they are fighting each other in that regard to accomplish their main goal.
I will also say that Greg he's big fan of action movies, and especially sort of the First Bloods, Die Hard, stuff like that. I mean, those are obviously the obvious examples, but action movies spend a lot of time sort of mini goals and obstacles and the villains piling on, the pressure on top of everything else. So I've always thought of Night Shift as sort of like an action horror movie. It's a lot of action in it, and but kind of keep the suspense and horror in with it. But that's sort of the mentality I think we came to it from.
That's great. I'll come back. I want to ask you guys some more questions about some of the specific sequences in Night Shift. But Natalie, please tell us how you sort of came on board the project and what you thought when you first read this script.
I'm sure I can already see Ryan and Greg's faces for me to answer this question and probably wondering how I would answer it. So how I always tell people how I got into the film was that we first met trying to make another movie that I was going to be cast in as a part of a 5-lead movie, another horror flick that I think was going to be really, really cool. And it didn't work out, and that's okay. That happens. But I got lucky enough that about a year and a half later, if that's correct, I got an email saying that I was definitely one of the nicer ones that quit, and also that they were hoping that I might audition for the lead in their new film. And as luck may have it, I definitely was interested, and I replied and went ahead and sent in my audition, and they cast me, and I couldn't have been luckier.
And what did you think when you read this script and you sort of saw that this character was going to be like on screen the entire movie? Like almost every single shot is basically her.
So that's a great question, actually. At first, it was exciting and daunting at the same time. Of course, you know, the actor in me that's complimented says, "Oh man, they want me to do this," and the actor in me that realizes the amount of screen time I'd have to carry was a little nervous, thinking, you know, do can I bring what it takes to carry a film, you know, in that way, and or that much of a film, and you know, as we all work together through it, I think that the collaborative effort just took over, and we just made it happen, and every day got easier and easier, or you know, new challenges came, and it was just, you know, a lot of fun and a lot of learning.
I don't know what this every day got easier and easier part is, because
Yeah.
it did not.
Easier in the working together sense. Like we
well,
had
yeah.
we
Yeah.
had routines and things that we started to kind of understand, or
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes. I'll give you that.
So my understanding is this was like a very, very small crew and a very, very long shooting schedule or period. You want to tell everyone a little bit about your approach? Because again, I think it's really useful for people, like when you watch this movie that feels so big and it's like moving and it's got all these parts, it's kind of interesting, at least to me, to hear like, well, how'd they do that? So yeah, tell us what your approach to making this was.
Sure. So we literally had three full-time crew members, and then Natalie is the one full-time cast member. So a typical day, there'd be four of us on set. And we shot it on all nights and weekends. It was like a whole bunch of half days. It would start at like 5:30. I mean, we started like 5:30 in the evening and shoot till midnight or 1 as much as we could. And then we do sort of all day Saturdays, stuff like that every once in a while. So we literally were like the night shift at this factory, because it was a real factory. It really was working factory during the day, and they made furniture, and they'd all clock out and we would come in. And so it's like the day shift made furniture and the night shift literally came in and made a horror movie. But yeah, it was just, I mean, and we'll just say it took about 6 months or 7 months, I guess, actually, to shoot the whole thing. And so it really was just broken down to, okay, what are we going to, made a plan for each day and kept it simple and achievable. And then really just due to Natalie's scheduling flexibility, and Caitlin was the third full-time crew member. She did the makeup and all that stuff, which we were super happy with, but she was super flexible in her schedule with us. And so we actually had only planned to shoot for 3 months. At the end of 3 months, we had 25% of the movie done. We were like, can you keep shooting? And they're like, fuck yeah, we can keep shooting. Let's go. So thankfully that worked out. And then COVID hit toward the end of the movie, because we finished shooting in like a June, July. So COVID hit of March of that year. And so at first we thought it would hurt us, but it actually ended up, I mean, I don't like framing it this way, but there was a benefit to the shutdown that was caused from COVID. And basically the factory shut down, and the owner was like, you guys can shoot as much as you want while we're closed. Just come in and do what you want. And then both Natalie's and Caitlin's work schedules completely freed up. And so we just started plugging in the days and knocked out the rest of the schedule, essentially. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
But part of the scheduling,
Natalie,
was we purposely did that for one, because we all had regular jobs too. And Five Across the Eyes, we shot 10 days straight, like from 3 p.m. to 5 a.m. and something like that. And I'm much older now and I can't handle that. So we purposely would like shoot a Wednesday night, and then maybe like then Saturday. But it also gave us a time to look at the footage, make sure there's nothing we got to like go back and fix and things like that. So we had that time to take a look at things since it was just me and Ryan doing pretty much, you know, Ryan was doing all the camera, lighting, any of that. I was handling a lot of the production design stuff, and then Caitlin, she was there doing the makeup, and then occasionally it was Caitlin, can you push the dolly for this shot, or you know, hold the boom. We had two other guys, Steve and Ed, that both came on, and they would spend a day with us here and there, doing boom and grip stuff, but mostly just us four.
I got two questions about that schedule. And the first, Natalie, you answer, and then maybe the guys can chime in, is when you're making something spread out over that long a period of time, how did you approach sort of keeping your connection to the character fresh? Did you ever get confused about where you were emotionally in this, keeping things consistent? Because, you know, it's one thing if you're shooting a scene over the course of a couple of days, you kind of know where you're at, both in what you're shooting and also how you're acting. So I'm curious what tricks you guys use to sort of remember where you were the last time you were shooting that scene.
So for me, as an actor, because I do feel like that's almost a common thought and question about movies when they're filmed not in a linear way. And I think for me, one of the first things is that Ryan and Greg both were really, really willing to be right there with me in terms of they always knew, you know, we're on top of what scene, what part, where Karen was. We all knew where Karen was. So they would even, you know, remind me of things, and I always had my scope of Karen and what, you know, her feelings were throughout the movie. And for me, personally, as an actress, having to not live on set, not getting to live on set for like 2 weeks or a month and then be done, rather than like go back to real life and work a job and then come back and then go, you know what I mean? For me as an actress, it was stepping into the warehouse was stepping into that world, if that makes sense. So once I was there, I was there. We were in another place, another location, another world, another timeline, etc. You know what I mean? And that's how at least I compartmentalize that for myself. But yeah, just obviously their support and knowing every detail as well. Really, we just did it together.
And I guess the same question for you guys. And then a second part of it is because like one of the things that the movie does so great is like your variety of footage is so like your camera's moving around, like jumping in for details, jumping back to the wide and stuff. In that sort of like extended schedule when you were editing, did you find yourself going back and picking up shots from a scene to help give everything that? And did that help you sort of keep track of everything you were shooting, or did it make it more complicated because you were having to go back and redo stuff to make sure the scenes were as dope as you saw them in your head?
Yeah, we actually did a fair amount of research. So Greg mentioned that we had sort of edited as we went, because we'd shoot, you know, a half day and then I'd put that footage together, and then we'd shoot another half day and I put that footage together. And it's kind of funny because as we were pulling the movie together, shooting it over 6 months, it's like, here's a scene, big gap of nothing. Here's a scene, here's a big gap of nothing. And then eventually you start to fill in the gaps. And I still remember the day when it all connected. I was like, we have a complete movie finally. We have beginning to end without any holes in it. Glorious day. But stuff like, so like the bathroom fight, for example, with Karen, drowns the guy and all that stuff. Spoiler alert, sorry. That scene, we actually had a completely different ending on it. We shot it, we put it together, and we're just like, this isn't working. Hang on. So that is actually one benefit that the schedule had for us, is that you can kind of see what you get as you go, and then let's retool that. And that was part of the flexibility with with Natalie's schedule and Caitlin's schedule, is they allowed us to like, okay, you know how we did that scene the other day? Well, we think we can do it better, the end of it better. Like it just didn't quite work. And they're like, okay, yeah, no, whatever you want to do, let's do it. And so, so that was really awesome to have, and really allowed us to, and really fix a lot of problems really just in the shooting of it. That it was like, okay, I think this could be better. I think this could be better. And so we just kept going at it and kept going at it until we finally like, okay, I think that's the absolute best we can do with it. So, so yeah, the schedule had its benefits and its, of course, downsides, because it takes 6 months to complete a movie, and anything can happen in that 6 months, and especially with stuff like COVID hitting. So it's nerve wracking, yet at the same time, there is a sort of breathing room in it where you can like, oh yeah, and just sort of take your time and try to craft the best thing you can with your resources. So
while you were making it, did you appreciate that? Or is it just sort of in hindsight, do you see the pros and cons of it? Like, was it nice to sort of not have the pressure on you? Was it nice to know you had a little bit of time as you were going along, or were you like, fuck, we got to finish this movie and get it out there to Chattanooga? Like,
well, there was a little bit of like, I mean, because when you start a production, you have like no money, no resources or anything like that. And it's sort of like anything could go wrong to derail it. And it could be just the tiniest little thing. And it just, there it goes, all this work for nothing. So yes, there was sort of that like, okay, can we just get a cut of it done? Can we just get a cut before we go back and revise these scenes or reshoot these scenes? But then sort of once we realized, and this was due to other people's schedule availability and stuff, it's like, okay, we don't actually have to panic on the schedule. Let's just, because we fell way short of our original scheduling. I mean, wasn't even close. So it was just more talking to the crew and being like, do you mind sticking with us a little longer? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So that took a lot of the pressure off and actually allowed us to, okay. So then we started planning, like, rather than trying to do 8 pages in one 4-hour block, let's know that we're only going to get 2 pages tonight, or because action does take a long time to shoot once you kind of get into it. And Greg and I, and there's another benefit of sort of this long schedule. We would actually go into the factory, just Greg and I, and completely map out exactly where we're going to shoot stuff and exactly what the shots are going to be, and kind of write all that stuff out. And so when we got on filming day, it was just about capturing the content. We already knew, okay, it's this shot. Oh yeah, then we got to jump over here to this shot. Okay, bring it up, light it up. All right, now we're jumping over here. And so nailing down that plan in the exact location where you're going to be is awesome.
yeah, I wanted to ask, and this is for all three of you, is, like you said earlier, it is kind of an action movie, right? And an action movie where your crew is 4 or 5 people. So how did you guys together or individually approach sort of mapping out what the stunts were going to be like and what the fights would be like, and how to, did you have time to rehearse them? Did you have time to, like, what was your group approach to doing that? Because they are pretty complex for a movie of this size.
A lot of the fights and, well, the chases as well, the action was pretty heavily mapped out. And that was, like Ryan said, it was going in between shoot days, mapping everything. And some of that happened while we were writing the script, because we had access to the factory then. So it was like, oh, this place is cool, I want to definitely do something over here, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of like the chases. Hey, we'll shoot this, and then we'll switch angles. And it was also figuring out, okay, how much lighting changes in between each shot, because Ryan was mostly doing that. So he'd put down the camera and have to go change the lighting. But some of the fight scenes, like some of them we kind of figured out and on set, and then the fight scene in the bathroom, that was completely written out. I mean, it's like step by step in the script, because I kind of knew what I wanted to do in that one. And so, but that room was so small, the way we shot it was Hunter and Natalie were in there with Ryan. And so there was no room for me. So I was standing outside, me and Kate, and they would, So, and I had the script, and Ryan was like, "All right, so what's next?" So we go in, like, okay, now he's going to grab you like this. Okay, so we figure out, and Ryan was like, "All right, I'll shoot it from here," and then shoot that, and then okay, what's next? And then he had to kind of, okay, well, I can shoot this from here, So we shot it chronologically, pretty much that scene for the angle, so we didn't really 180-degree rule anything and stuff like that. And also, so it was just some of those scenes they were just written out in such a way that it was just easy to go step by step. And then other times we just said, Natalie, you're just going to have to fall off this.
Yeah, Natalie, what was your experience like? Fighting off four masked intruders for 6 months.
So with all the ideas in the script, you wouldn't believe how patient and concerned with safety Ryan and Greg are, because their number one the whole time was just, please don't get hurt. Do not get hurt. If you feel unsafe, you stop. That is, we will work it out. And that really enabled me to say, no, I can do this stunt. That one's mine. I got it. That's 100%. And we would work together, and that trust was just freedom for us to film. And truly, I started laughing earlier when you were talking, Greg, because of the broken toilet. I couldn't stop thinking about the broken toilet. It's the first time I've ever seen a ceramic toilet break, and I'll never forget it.
Yeah, unfortunately,
but we did that.
It was between takes. Hunter leaned into the toilet and it just broke the bowl off the top of the toilet, and we're like, oh no. But whatever, just turned. I mean, we're like, why couldn't that have happened on camera? But oh well.
Shot of a lifetime.
Yep.
Well, speaking of important sort of location props, my understanding is there's a key brick that features in this film that has a unique horror backstory. Not that it upstaged anyone in the scene. I mean, it's just a brick. It just sits there. But maybe you could tell us a bit about this really important brick.
Yes. So the brick that Karen uses to prop open the door, and then later, spoiler alert, shows up in the fake package. That brick has been in a movie before. So I told you we shot Night Shift in Morristown, Tennessee. And for the true horror fanatics might know one other movie that was shot in Morristown, Tennessee back in 1979, and that is Evil Dead, The Evil Dead from Sam Raimi. And so Greg and I grew up in Morristown, and when he was a bit younger, he went to the Evil Dead cabin site and may or may not have stolen a brick from the fireplace. And so when it came time to, we needed a brick for Night Shift, he said, I have the perfect brick. So that brick came from the original Evil Dead cabin.
And is the brick available? Like, would anybody have access to the brick so we could show
this? It is right here.
Holy shit. A Chattanooga exclusive. I'm actually being serious. Like that sort of lineage from generation to generation and movies to movies is something that I just think is so fucking cool. And it's just like this little tidbit that's like connecting this film in 2022 to what was the name of the other movie? There's some like another little
one called it started as Book of the Dead and then eventually became The Evil Dead. I don't know if you've heard of it, but you got to really know what you're doing. Really know your horror to know that one. But yeah, we grew up. Well, I grew up about a mile from the site where they shot it, and so when they made a pilgrimage, we obviously walked away with some souvenirs. But yeah, so we made sure that it was almost like a little good luck charm, perhaps, to go into Night Shift. Maybe if we just rub off a little luck off that brick to help us along the way, that would be amazing. So,
if any
also
from
Greg did not steal the brick. Associate producer Steve took the brick.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So if
So
you're
let's
meeting
clear
with
my
Sam
name on
Raimi,
that.
he's not going to accuse
Yes.
you of being a thief. Well, I'm hoping that it won't take another 15 years for you to make another film. And I just am so excited to have seen you guys grow as filmmakers. And, I think I haven't been on the message boards, but I assume Chattanooga is as proud of you as I am for making a movie where a Karen is the hero. And the entire time she's just trying to unmask some people who just want to wear masks at work. And you guys were brave enough to go and make her the hero who triumphs over these guys who just want to wear masks all day. So I think that's pretty bold. Where can people find you on social media so they can sort of follow your film and follow you?
Well, we have accounts for the film. They're at Movie Night Shift, and that's on all the big platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then my handle is Trauma One Ryan. Our company's Trauma One Entertainment, so I'm Trauma One Ryan. Feel free to give us a follow, and I'll be happy to reciprocate. And then while I have a little moment here, I just want to plug Travis a little bit here. He just had a fantastic movie come out, premiered at Tribeca, which I was happy enough
you
to
can't
catch.
derail. I derail the Q&As. You can't derail your own Q&A.
But the name of the film is A Wounded Fawn. It's amazing. Go check it out when it comes out on Shudder, I believe.
It is. It will be
that
on
one's
Shudder.
landing. Yes, awesome.
Well, thank you.
Red.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed. But just before that, people can keep talking about this on the Discord. But Natalie, do you have a social media you want to plug?
Yes. So my Instagram is at natchris_T_TEE. And then my IMDb is Natalie Terrazino. So if you Google that last name, nobody else will more than likely come up.
Amazing. Well, I can't thank you guys enough. And I want everybody at Chattanooga to do their part. Talk about this movie on social media, hype this movie up. Let's get Hollywood distribution companies to buy it and put it out there. And let's support filmmakers who are making great shit in Tennessee. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.